Hey, what's going on, YC? It's your girl, Leah Ray, and you are tuned into The Leah Ray Show. So, what's going on, YT? But hopefully by now you have watched my pregnancy story so that you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it's now December 3rd. So it's now December 3rd, and I go ahead and I get admitted to the hospital. Doctor comes in and gives me Cervidil to soften my cervix, and then we have to wait overnight. It was 5 p.m. when I got admitted. So you got to let the Cervidil sit for 12 hours. So I had already started having contractions 2 days prior to that while I was still at home. The contractions weren't intense, but I knew that they were contractions because it just felt like my belly was just squeezing. And I knew that Cervidil wouldn't do anything but soften my cervix, so I had the whole night to get my mind ready for this, because I had heard that when you get your labor induced, it takes your labor from 0 to 100 real quick, which is why I didn't even want to get induced. I wanted to have a natural birth so my contractions could gradually increase, because remember, I was going into this thing, no pain medicine. So it's the next day, and they wake me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. They let me get a shower, and then later on around, what time was it? It must have been around 5 something. The doctor came in and was like, okay, I'm about to start your Pitocin drip, and we're about to get this thing popping. So they start the Pitocin drip, and I start having more intense contractions. Now, mind you, let me go ahead and reiterate the fact that I took all these classes, intro to childbirth and everything like that, and I spent a month going to Lamaze class. So when these contractions started, they were intense, okay? Intense. But thank God that my husband and I were prepared, because when we got to the hospital room, we set up our aromatherapy. We had our mister going. We had music playing in the background. We had dim lighting going, and we had all our breathing techniques down packed. And it wasn't even the ones that they taught us in Lamaze. Since my husband is a musician, he had me doing breathing gym. If you don't know what breathing gym is, you need to go ahead and look that up on YouTube. But he was on it. He would start that snap and be like, 1, 2, ready, go. And we start our breathing techniques. And that would carry me through every single contraction. No matter how light, no matter how intense, I was taking them like a G. Don't let people tell you and get into your head, talk about, oh my gosh, those contractions, oh my gosh, like you're going to have to get an epidural. It's going to hurt so bad. Notice how I never said that my contractions hurt, because they didn't hurt. They were intense. It felt like a pressure. It felt like a contraction. But let me tell you something. It is a state of mind. If you get your mind right from the time that you realize that you're pregnant all the way up until the moment that you go into labor to the moment that you start having those contractions, your mind will be prepared. Pain is perception. Pain is perception. I remember one time my cousin Sherry, this is back in the day, and I hope Sherry watches this vlog. Back in the day when we used to live on Lanza. I think we lived on Lanza, if I'm not mistaken. Where was that when we lived? And all of y'all, Orion and Sherry and Lisa, y'all used to come to our house on that side of town. We was all the way on the opposite side of town. This was before... Was this before High Street? I think this was before High Street. Anyway, we were playing hide and go seek. We're grown kids, okay? We're like in middle school, and I might have even been a freshman in high school. I don't even know. But I remember Sherry was over there, and it was me and my brother and my sister and Sherry. I don't know who else was there. And we were playing hide and go seek. Sherry decided, now we had a dresser drawer that was in the closet drawer, okay? Sherry's my cousin. That was in the closet, okay? And the closet doors were off, okay? So Sherry decided that she wanted to climb over the dresser drawer and hide in the little space between that's in the closet, but it's sealed off by the dresser. So you literally have to climb over the dresser to get into that little hole. Nobody would have even thought to look there. Anyway, Sherry decides she wants to hide there. So I don't even remember finding Sherry. That's how good the hiding space was. But I remember Sherry coming out. So she came out and she was climbing over the dresser drawer. Somehow she slipped, she fell, boom, hit the floor. It was a loud thud. Sherry got out, and all I saw was blood leaking. It was just leaking. I was like, oh my gosh. Sherry wasn't even crying, okay? Like, her chin was split to the white meat. Like, I'm sure if I pull her chin apart, I'd probably see her chin bone. Like, that's how deep this gash was. I think Sherry went into the bathroom or something, and as soon as she saw that, she started crying. She started bawling tears. But that's my point. Pain is perception. Her mind didn't even know to tell her that she was in pain. Like, she didn't even think that until she saw it. When she saw it, then her mind told her she was in pain, and then all heck broke loose. That's my point. Even with these contractions, let me tell you something. Your body is built for pregnancy, women. Your body is built to have a baby. Your body is ready for this. The only thing you got to get ready for this is your mind. So my mind was ready. In that room, like, I'm telling you, our room was so on point. The nurses were coming in there. It was like, oh my goodness, like, I love your room. The atmosphere is so conducive for labor. It's so calm. It's just so soothing in here. The doctor came in and would say that. So if you're going to have a baby, go ahead. Think about how you want your room to be. I had motivational posters that this girl had made me. That's in my husband's band. I had those there. Like, we had that ambience going. We had it down packed. We was ready up in there. So when these contractions were coming, I was eating them. Thug life. And my god sister Monisha was in there. My little sister, she's 19. Don't kill me if I say you're 19, but you're not 19, because I think I said you were 18 before. You was like, I'm 19. Okay, but and my BFF Reva was in there. I mean, they were in there from the morning until the night, okay? And they was in there, and everybody, we was just chilling. Like, my husband was there, we were chilling, they were having conversation, I was having conversation, but when that contraction hit, I was like, and then my husband was like, all right, let's go. Breathe. Okay, because you will forget to breathe. But don't forget to breathe. Remember to breathe. So anyway, like, that's how it was all day. So the doctor came in the morning. He was like, okay, I'll be there around lunchtime. Like 5 hours later, he comes back, which was around lunchtime. And he was like, okay, I want to see if you're dilated. Check me. I wasn't really dilated, maybe a centimeter. So he was like, okay, we're going to give you this Foley catheter. Now, the way the Foley catheter works is it's a catheter, and they go ahead and they stick it into your all the way into through your cervix into your uterus. Yeah, through your cervix into your uterus. And then after that, they blow it up like a balloon. And they blow it up to where they want your cervix to be. So he wanted my cervix to be between 4 to 6 centimeters. So he blew the balloon up to 4 to 6 centimeters. And then what happens is cervix thinks that it's late to the party. Like, oh, the uterus is already dilated 4 to 6 centimeters, so I need to catch up. So then your cervix starts to dilate. Let me tell you something. When he put that Foley catheter in, I thought my contractions were at 100. But they weren't, okay? I thought my contractions went from 0 to 100 real quick, but I was wrong. They probably went from 0 to 50 real quick. Now we were at 100, okay? And they were coming. And they were coming every 2 to 3 minutes apart. And it was like, goodness, if you know anything about pregnancy and the stages of pregnancy, I was like, I feel like I'm in transition. I feel like the baby's about to come any minute. So 2 to 3 minutes apart for hours. So he came back and he checked my cervix a few hours later, and he tried to tug on the catheter. If the catheter comes out, then you're dilated 4 to 6 centimeters. So he was like, we're probably at 4 centimeters. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it in. So he was like, I'll be back later. So he goes, he leaves. A few hours later, he comes back. He pulls that catheter. That catheter comes out. He's like, all right, game time. We at 6 centimeters, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and come back because you know you got to be at 10. So I'm like, okay. I was asking the doctor. I was like, Doc, they're coming 2 to 3 minutes apart. They're coming fast. Like, do we want them to come that fast? He was like, yeah, that's about how we want them to come. I was like, Jesus, right? So still banging out these contractions. Mind you, no pain medicine. Mind you, no epidural. So he leaves and he comes back. And when he comes back, he checks me. And it's been a few hours. And I'm 7 centimeters. Now, it took me a few hours to get from 6 to 7. Mind you, they keep increasing the Pitocin drip. I started at a level 2, okay? By the time I was 7 centimeters, mind you, we started this at 4 something, 5 something in the morning. It is now the nighttime, okay? We've been going at this for about 17 hours. Now, I look at the Pitocin drip. The Pitocin drip is on level 20 right now, okay? And they go up by 2s. So he's looking, the doctor comes in, he's looking at the Pitocin drip. And he's like, well, you at level 20 right now, and this is about the highest that we normally give patients. This is about the highest that we want to go. I was like, well, how high can you go? He's like, we can go up to 30, but we usually just want to go up to 20. We usually don't have to go further than that. So I was like, okay. So he was like, let me check your cervix. Now, the whole time he had been checking my cervix, he had been checking to see where the baby was. Now, the baby is on a number line. Just think of the y-axis upside down, okay? So the negatives are going to be at the top and the positives are going to be at the bottom. 0 is the pelvic bone, okay? And that's where the baby got to pass through. Now, you don't want your baby to be in the negatives because that means that the baby is way far up in the birth canal. You want your baby to be at 0 or in the positives because that means she's falling down the birth canal, okay? My baby was at -3 at 4 something, 5 something in the morning, and 17 hours later, she was at -3. She did not move the entire time. All those contractions later, all those, that uncomfortable, all that pressure, all that breathing, they sat me up, that catheter, everything. She hadn't budged. She did not move. And it was so crazy because when I went to get my cervix checked at the doctor's office before I was admitted to the hospital, the doctor was like, yeah, I could feel her head. And he didn't even have to check my cervix that far up. He was trying to check, when he was checking my cervix, I felt like that was more intense than the contractions. I'm like, is your hand up there? Like, what is going on? 17 hours, no medication, no epidural. I'm a G. Before the doctor came in to discuss the next thing that I'm about to tell you, he put an I forgot what it's called, an electric monitor to see just how intense my contractions were. And basically it's like, it looks like a catheter, but it's not. I got like these little two like electrical things on the tip, like you can't even see them. And you just put it in, he puts it in you and they sit on either side of the baby, right on your belly in the inside. And then they can measure the intenseness of the contractions. Because he wanted to know if the contractions were really as strong as they needed to be and I was just eating them, or were they not as intense as he needed them to be. So when he did that, for some reason, my contractions lightened up. Like they lightened up so much to the point where it wasn't even like nothing. Like it's like, oh, there's a contraction. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even have to do any breathing techniques or anything. So he left and he came back, and that's when he looked at the monitor. He was like, your contractions have lightened up. They've been light for like an hour. This is what we can do. Now, he said I could up your Pitocin, even though, you know, that's not really what I want to do. He was like, but now we got to talk about a cesarean. Because I've done all I can do. I pulled all the tricks out the bag. I mean, they had me sitting up almost vertical. They were doing all kinds of stuff. And he was like, I have done everything that I can do. And we got about an hour to play with. He was like, if you want to wait the hour, I'll let you wait an hour. And we can see what happens. Maybe she'll come down. Maybe she'll slide down. But I'm thinking that because she hasn't budged in 17 hours, more than 17 hours, really. But if she hasn't budged in 17 hours worth of labor, she's probably not going to come down that birth canal. And I'm going to have to go get her. He was like, you have the opportunity to make a decision. You still have some say in the decision-making process, you and your husband. But in about an hour, nobody's going to have anything, or nobody's going to have a say but me. And I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get the baby. So he was like, I was like, okay, we just going to talk about this for a second, okay? Because I don't want it, I was thinking like, I don't want it to be like, all right, like emergency C-section, go time. I wanted to have an opportunity to wrap my brain around it. So he was like, I'll let y'all talk. So everybody left the room and my husband and I talked, and it was an emotional time because it's like we did everything that we could do to ensure that we had the best odds for us to have a natural birth. Like as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I made sure I stayed active. I made sure I stayed positive. I made sure I did not overeat. I made sure I did not gain any weight, because before I got pregnant, I was already overweight. So I didn't want to gain any more weight and cause that to be high risk. And I made sure I ate a lot of fruit. I kept my liquid intake good, and my blood pressure was good. I had absolutely no complications during pregnancy, except for that one blood pressure reading that I had that was high. That was actually a fluke. So, like, we went to the classes, we learned about parenting, we learned about birth, we learned about taking care of the baby, we took Lamaze, we practiced breathing techniques, we practiced massage techniques, relaxation techniques. I mean, we did everything that we possibly could to ensure that we would have a natural vaginal birth, only to be into labor 17 hours worth of contractions for the doctor to tell you that you're going to probably more than likely have to have a cesarean. I knew that that was a possibility, but I didn't entertain the idea at all because that's just not the direction. I was trying to think positive. I was trying to think about what I wanted to happen. So I didn't entertain that. I didn't even let that creep into my mind, but for split seconds. So my husband and I talked, and it was just, you feel like you're robbed. You know what I'm saying? You just feel like it's not fair. Then you think about the people who don't care about being pregnant, the people who get pregnant like it's the new trend or something. Get pregnant for fun, like don't even want their babies and all this kind of stuff, and get to have natural births, vaginal births, and everything is fine. But like I said, somebody got to remain 100% positive. So I was telling my husband, like, look, it's all good, because really I was feeling that way, but I was the one that was about to have the cesarean. So I needed to stay positive, and I needed everybody around me to stay positive because I didn't want to go into panic. Okay. So, about 20 minutes we talked, got out what we need to say, and then it was go time. 20 minutes later, he said we only had an hour. We was like, we might as well have a cesarean. So doctor comes back in, and he's like, so are we going to wait any longer? Because we only have a little bit of time now. And then I was like, well, if you say we're going to have a cesarean, then let's go ahead and get this process started. So things changed just like that. So my little sister and my best friend, they decided to pack it up because at this point, it was nothing that anybody could do. I had to go in there and get surgery. So they start prepping you. They tell my husband what he's going to do, what's going to happen. They tell me what's going to happen. And then within like 30 minutes, they contact the OR team. They get the anesthesiologist. Things just start flowing. Like within 30 minutes, they were wheeling me down to the OR. It's crazy because I didn't even realize that the OR room's like right there down the hallway. So you go into the OR room, and it's just like on TV. It's the brightest room I've ever seen in my life. You talking about lights? You think you got lighting for YouTube? You think you're doing it? You're not, okay? If you want that bomb light, you need to go into that OR room. It's so many lights that I feel like there's no shadows that are being created because the light is coming from everywhere. And then there's a million people in there. When I got in there, it was like 3 women in there. They were part of the prep team. Then the anesthesiologist came in there. Then another doctor came in. It was so many people. My anesthesiologist's name was Steven. I didn't get his last name, but Steven is thebomb.com. If you ever go to Flowers Hospital to do anything and you have to get anesthesia, see if you can get Steven, because Steven's dope, okay? But anyway, so they were telling me how this spinal block down. If you had an epidural, I think you could have just used the epidural for your cesarean, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't have an epidural. I didn't have no pain medicine, so I had to get the spinal because the spinal works like that. So when I got in there and they put me on the table and then they sat me up, I was shaking uncontrollably. I never shook. Like, it was like this. I was like trembling to the max. And I did not know what was going on because, like, in my mind, I was like, I thought I was calm. I thought I was good, but obviously I wasn't. So Steven's walking around. He's like, we're going to get you some blankets. I was like, Steven. This is how I was talking to him the whole time. I was like, Steven, I'm not cold, Steven. I don't know why I'm shaking, Steven. They prep you first. First, you got to practice. You got to practice getting the spinal tap, okay? So you got to hunch over. You're sitting on the edge of the table. You got to put your head down. Shoulders got to be relaxed. You got to hunch over, and you got to roll your back. So I did it the first time because I could follow instructions. And they were like, oh, that's perfect. You're in the perfect position. So then, Steven comes and he's feeling around your spine and all this kind of stuff. And then he marks the spot where he wants to insert the needle. Now, do not be alarmed. The needle is just like when you go to the doctor's office, you got to get a shot for some I don't know, you got to get some medicine or something like that. It's just that needle. Some people think it's some kind of long needle or something like that. No, it's a regular needle. And the needle does not hurt. It feels just like you're getting a shot. You just get it in your back, but it doesn't matter that it's in your back because it doesn't feel any worse. So he goes ahead and he's like, okay, you're going to feel a stick. So he puts the needle in, and then he dispenses the medicine, and it stings a little bit. It's not even intense, okay? So don't even let people tell you that it's like a big deal, because it's not. So and then they let it sit, they let the medicine work, and he's doing things like, okay, really still right now, really still. So you just sit there, and it's all good. It's nothing to be scared about. And it's crazy because even though I was trembling, as soon as he said he's about to put that needle in my back, the girl got still. Okay. If somebody walked in there, they might have been like, is she alive? Because I ain't trying to mess up my back, dog, because I already know. So he gave me the needle, and that was cool. As soon as they take that needle out, they start moving your legs, because your legs start to go numb. I'm talking about you start going numb here down, okay? It's crazy. I did not like that. So anyway, I mean, like, it's weird. Like, you don't like it, but you're like, this is crazy. Like, okay, so anyway, they lift your legs. They gotta lift your legs because your legs start to not work. So now I'm laid out. Then they put the curtain. So they got the curtain up, right? So that you can't see anything, because just think about it. You're about to have a cesarean. They're about to cut you open. They're about to go get the baby. It's about to be your guts on the table. So you don't want to see all that. You know, you might pass out or something. So anyway, they start doing what they got to do. Steven is right here. Okay. Now, Steven tells me, he said, look, you're going to feel everything. Skirt. What you talking about, Steven? He was like, you're going to feel everything. But what you should not feel is pain. And you should not feel temperature. So we're going to run some tests. So after he's let that medicine work, and the team is prepping and everything like that, he gets this super cold little tab, and he was like rubbing it on my neck. He was like, do you feel this? I said, yeah, it's freezing. It's cold. It's wet. I feel that. He was like, okay, this is freezing cold. This is cold. Then he takes that same thing. He was like, tell me what you feel here. I was like, I feel it, but it doesn't feel cold. He was like, all right, it's go time. So let me just tell you something about a cesarean. You're going to feel everything. Every time they touch you, anything they do, you're going to feel it, but you're not going to feel pain. So, and you're not going to feel temperature. So do not worry. Like, you're going to feel this. You're going to be completely numb, but you're going to feel them touching you. You're going to feel everything. Okay. Everything. You're going to feel everything, but it's not going to be painful. Okay. So I'm talking about within okay, so I was numb. The doctor comes in. Doctor don't come in until you're ready to go. Doctor comes in 5 minutes later, not even 5 minutes later, they say, you're going to feel a push. All of a sudden, I felt pressure, and then I heard a baby screaming. Like, my husband and I, like, we cried out. It was like we were crying, but wasn't no tears. It was like a feeling that you never felt before. And then they took the baby, and they held the baby up like Simba over the curtain. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like, it just got real. Because the whole time you're pregnant, you're like, oh yeah, you know, like, it's a baby in there. Oh, I'm cute, I'm pregnant, look at my baby bump. But then we see that baby, it gets real. So then all you start hearing is numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody starts counting all the way up to 50. They running it back. And I was like, dang, why they counting? Oh, I know what they counting. They counting to make sure they have all their tools so they don't sew nothing back up in me, okay? And they're doing this. Then Steven grabs the camera from Adrian. He's now the anesthesiologist / photographer, and he starts taking a million pictures, just a million pictures. It was just great. The next thing I know, the baby is gone, Adrian's gone, and I'm just laying there. I didn't see them again. I went and now I had her at 12:23 on December the 5th, and I didn't see them until like 3 something in the morning. So I guess I went to recover me. I don't even remember that part. I don't even remember it taking like 2 or 3 hours to do all that, but they got to sew you back up. And the way they did my incision, it was a bikini cut. And let me tell you something, I went ahead and I got waxed before I went there, because they will shave you. Okay. And they will use that little bogus dollar store razor to shave you, and you know you don't want them kind of problems in your life. So if you know that you have to have a cesarean, matter of fact, even if you don't know that you have to have a cesarean, because you could have a plan, just like we have a plan, and it could not go according to plan. You might have to have a cesarean, even though that's not what you planned on, but you do not want them to shave you. So go ahead and get yourself waxed, get yourself prepared, get yourself ready, okay, so that you don't have another problem to deal with after the fact. But yeah, so they do a bikini cut, which is right there. It's way low down. It's a bikini cut. So they do a bikini cut, and the incision is not big. And the way my doctor did it was he has to cut through 5 layers. So he closed back up all 5 layers, and then they don't do stitches and they don't do staples. They do liquid skin. So after he, got everything sutured back up, he went ahead and put some of that liquid skin on it, which is just like super glue. And then that was it. And then I went and I saw my baby. So, yeah, that was my birth story. And the moral of the story is, and let me just summarize for you. The most important parts of everything that I told you were, number 1, stay positive. Number 2, have a plan. Even if things don't go according to plan, still have a plan. That will put you at ease. And number 3, understand that things may not go according to plan. When I think about my labor, I think about a pain-free labor, because not once did I ever refer to my contractions as pain. Not once did I ever allow the word pain into my brain. Not once did I ever conceptualize what was going on with me as pain. I thought about it as pressure, as contractions, as being uncomfortable. That's how I thought about it. And I had a very positive labor experience. That's the way it should be. It's a state of mind. So my advice to you is get your mind right when you get pregnant. Be calm, be positive, stay active, drink water, and don't let anybody's negative pregnancy stories infiltrate your mind. Don't even entertain them. As soon as somebody starts to tell you about how painful it is and epidural this and all that kind of stuff, just stop the conversation. Don't be afraid to tell people, you know what, I don't really want to hear that. We're going to keep it positive over here, because you want to have a nice labor. You want to have a pain-free labor. My next video will be my hospital stay and my cesarean recovery. So be sure to tune into that. And also, I know I got my own plan as far as the videos that I want to do, but if you want me to do a particular video about pregnancy, just let me know, and I will definitely do that video for you. Once again, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, people, it's your girl Leah on the Leah Ray Show. Peace.